Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Now it's been a minute since I've created a tutorial or anything like that because I've been a little bit busy to some extent, and yeah, so I decided to go ahead and do something. And because I've been working with Vuetify a lot lately, I decided to just go ahead and do a login page or a login component. And this, I believe, will probably be a series. I'll continue like creating components and stuff like that with Vue. Obviously, because Vuetify is a Vue library. So that's what I'm going to do. As you can see here, I just created this Vue components uh, repository on my GitHub, the organization page at least. So that's edu Fedorae organization. So that's what I created. I haven't put anything yet as yet, but you can see all the commands right there. So I just started the server because I installed I created a Vuetify project. Well, not a Vuetify, a Vue project. It's a default project. It doesn't have anything like the router or the store. It doesn't have none of that. It only has the base stuff, Babel and Vue, and afterwards I went ahead and I added Vuetify. So you can see the config here, and that's for Vuetify. And we have the plugin here. You know how all of that goes automatically done, and it's just Vue uh, add Vuetify, and that's it in the command line. So I deleted the single component that was here, and I cleared everything from the app. So if I should go to localhost 8080, we should see pretty much nothing. There should be nothing here except for uh, you can see in the title here we actually have the beautiful uh, name of the project. So that's coming from the package.json file. Otherwise, from that we should have nothing in here. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. The next thing that I added was the a logo.png, which is the Fedora education logo. So I added this here because we're gonna use this on the login page. So that's pretty much it. So let me clear that out, and I'm gonna leave this open because we're gonna use that eventually. So what I'm gonna do here is just to go ahead and create a login component, and I think this is the structure that I'm gonna keep it as. So login uh, view comp that view, and then just continue with them, and then just import them into that view. So we may not use the router or the store. So because I guess we're just gonna be doing components, so we probably won't necessarily need to do that. All right, so that's pretty much all we need at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the structure of this up. So we're gonna go ahead and do component, and I have a little bit. I think it's emit. Or I have yeah, I have view some view snippet thing that's helping me out with this. So that's why I'm coding faster. And as you know, this is the Atom IDE, one of my favorite IDEs or editor. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is to actually add a V app, and I also have some other snippets in here that I found in the packages that I could install that helps with the Vuetify aspect of this. So when we add the V app, and we're just gonna go ahead and add a V main. Unfortunately, it doesn't work all that great. The snippets doesn't work all that great with the V main. So I have to type it out. Alright, so that's that. So we have V main, and we're gonna add a component in here. However, what we want is for this to be centered, and we want it to fill the the canvas or whatever. And what I'm gonna do is just to add a class in here that's called fill height. This should do the trick, and then we're gonna allow this to be fluid. So that's pretty much that. The next thing that I want to do now is just to lay this thing out properly. So we're gonna go ahead and create a v row And in the V row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to align everything to the center and justify it to the center as well. And in addition to that, I want to have this row to be dense. Next thing, as you know, a column has to follow the row, and this is going to be a default of 12. We don't necessarily have to put 12 there, but it's always good to do that. Now when it's small, what we want it to be is 8. So that's how much we want it to take up. It's 4, not 4. When it's medium, we want it to be 4, and when it's large, I'm just gonna add it to be 4, just the same as well. Now the next thing that I want is to add a card in here, which I am not going to elevate. By default, we'll get some elevation, but I want it to an elevation of 1, but I want it to be 0. We can add it as a class like this. So elevation, and then 0 or 1 or any amount you want. But I prefer to have it as a prop. I believe it's a prop or an attribute. I think it's a prop. So we're gonna go ahead and say elevation equals 0, so we don't want it to show. The next thing that I want to add here is the image. So we're gonna use the V image, and the image is located at the source assets slash logo.png, and that's pretty much it. But obviously gonna put an alternate text. So this is the Fedorae education logo, and the next thing that I want to do is to contain this. We're gonna add contain onto the image, and I want to set the height to be 200, so 200 flat. However, we all know that when we have these logins, most of the time we want it to navigate back to our home page. So that's what I'm gonna do with this, and just add it into an anchor tag, and that's because we do not have the view router. So if we had the view router, all we had to do was use the router link and just add it to the home page or whatever. And we do not have the view router, so we're not going to use that. But what I'm going to do actually for this is to add this, allow this to link to the Fedorae education website. So I'm just going to add that here. That's where it's hosted currently, and I want this to open in a new window. So I'm gonna do a target underscore blank, and before the target I want to also add a name. So this will be Fedorae education. That's the name that I'm gonna give the anchor tag. So after such, what we want to do now is I like to add this a V card text. So this gives it some margin around what's inside our padding, I would say, actually, because it's on the inside. Padding is for the inside. It basically gives it some padding on the inside, so it's not too. So we have some space around it. So that's pretty much all I want to say. We have some space around it. So that's V card text. So I like to add that in there. Next thing I want to add is the V form, and we're not gonna be doing any submits or anything, but if you were supposed to do any submits, it will be add submit, and then you add the function that you want to add in here. So the next thing is just to add the input fields, and I realize that I may be going too quickly, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, and we're not seeing anything over here. What I'm gonna do is just to save this right now, and then we can look at it and see what it looks like. Alright, so we won't see it just yet. The reason why we won't see it just yet is because we have not added it to the app.view. So we're gonna have to import that. So I'm just gonna call this login, and we can now go ahead and import login from, and this is coming from the asset slash, well, source actually, slash component slash login, and that's that for there. I like to give it some space as well, and then in the export default we can just say component and login, and that should pretty much be it. So let's just say this as well. All right, there we go. So as you can see, we're now seeing this here, and it actually links to our page. As you can see down in the bottom here, you can see it links to the Fedorae education site there. Now, that's pretty much that. So we can close that out. And for the terminal, what I'm using is a plugin that I found. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's Terminal Plus or a fork of Terminal Plus, which is pretty good. I really like it so far. Makes Atom ID much better to some extent. Something I really wanted to add for a long time. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. So next thing that I want to do now, as mentioned, is to add the text field. So we have v text field, and one thing I realized that I probably should add to this is a title as well. So when we hover over the image, we see, yeah, we just see a text. So when we hover over this, we'll see the text when I save that. All right, so we're gonna continue down here. The first thing I want to add is a, let me just close this out so we can see everything here. So we're gonna add a label. The label I'm gonna add here is enter your email. The next thing that I want is a name for this input field. Now we know that the v text field is a wrapper for the actual input HTML element. So yeah, so we're gonna also have an icon to the right, to the left on the inside. So that's why we're gonna use prepend, and then we're gonna have it on the inside. So we're gonna say inner, and the icon. So the icon that we want is the MD mail, not MID. So MDI mail, the material design icon, and we're gonna have a type of email, and I want this to actually be square, or not square, rectangular. So it will basically have sharp edges. I don't want it to be rounded. So what I'm gonna do is allow that to be 0. I'm gonna say rounded 0. I'm actually quite curious of if we could do the same thing that we did with the elevation with this rounded. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually attempt it with the next one. But the next thing that I want to do is have this outlined, because by default what Vuetify gives is a line, the line for your input fields. It's pretty nice, but I want it to be outlined. So the next thing is to just create another one of these, and the label for this one is going to be password. Well, enter your password, and the name is going to be password, and I probably should put this in common letters because these are not actually going to be seen. These are just attributes for the input field, and we're also going to prepend the icon, and this is going to be on the inside as well, and this is going to be the lock icon. So what we could add also is this is gonna be to the left, so to the right we could add um, an an I, the MDI. So if we want to toggle the viewing of the text that is in the input field, yeah, if we want to look at a password, but that's not gonna happen for now, or at least not for this tutorial. Type is going to be a password. Uh, what I'm gonna do is actually have a forget password class or something there. It would be a button. So it's something that I've been meaning to test out. Where you can where would add to the left to the right would add something like forgot password with a question mark, and you can click on it and move to the page. But I haven't really figured it out just yet. What I'm gonna do is, for now, I'm just gonna add a suffix, and in the suffix, what I'm gonna do is just to add forgot. So this will not be functional just yet, but afterwards you can see how we can get that in. Uh, so the next thing that I want to do is to test actually to see if rounded actually works. So let's test this out and put that to 0. So we're gonna test if rounded works. The final thing is to have this outlined, and that should pretty much be it. So let's just save this. Alright, so it does not seem like it actually worked. It did not work. Well, we got the outline, but it did not give us the sharp edges that we want. So I'm just gonna actually change this back to the class. It didn't work, but that's fine. It was worth the test. And this is the forget that I was talking about. So we could click on it to get it to be like a link or something. But we'll see how that goes later on. The MD mail icon looks a whole lot different than what I remember, but let's not worry about that. Alright, so the next thing I want to add is, we're still gonna be in the form. I want to add a button that says login. So we're gonna do a VBTN, and we could actually put the submit function on the button here, but we're not gonna do that because we're not implementing that just yet. The only thing that I'm gonna say on the button is just login, and I'm gonna add a class of rounded as well. So we want it to look like this. We're gonna say rounded to 0. So we're not gonna, so that's we're gonna get rid of we're gonna make it have the sharp edges just the same. And I want to put a color of black. I want it to have a black color, and technically that's not correct because what they say black is not a color, but whatever. So we're just gonna go ahead and allow it to be black as well, so it fills the whole space, just so it looks just similar to this that we have here. Final thing is that we want it to be dark, so whatever, so it will allow this text to be light, so it'll have that white color. So if this will change, this is a different color, just adjust properly. Now under here, what I want to do is to add 2 other things, like a link to tell them that, well, go ahead and create a password. Well, create a username. Well, register, I should say, if you don't have an account. And the other one would be to remember me. Alright, so let's go ahead. So the first one will be a checkbox. And the checkbox will, before we actually do that, I actually want this to be in a vActions class, vCard actions class. See if we'll get that to work. Yes. So vActions element here, and what I want to do is just add a class around this, because I want all the text to have a certain opacity, because what I realized was that the opacity for the text that I'm gonna add for the sign up link and the checkbox is different. What I did was I just went ahead and say the text I want it to be secondary. So we're covering pretty much everything in here. That will give us that light opacity that we want. So we're gonna get the checkbox now. Checkbox, I'm gonna give it a color. I'm gonna give it the same color as the button here. So it's gonna be black, and then we're gonna have the label, which is going to say remember me, and that's pretty much it. What I'm gonna do is have this to the left and the text to the right. So we're gonna do a V spacer for that, and then we can just say no account question mark. And typically what we would do here is just to say router, and within here we would say sign up. But because we do not have the V router, what I'm gonna do, the router, I'm gonna just put an href in here, the dead link, and just say sign up. So we're just gonna do that. But again, what I'm gonna do is to actually put the router link here to show you what it would actually look like. So we basically just have this, so I can just comment this out, and that's what we would have, and the sign up in here, and maybe you have the component, the name of the component be like sign up, correctly, sign up or something like that, and we would not need the parameters, so we'll remove that, and that's how we would have it. So yeah, but we're not gonna be using that, so we're just gonna use this instead. But I'm gonna add a class to this to give it some padding from the left, and I'm gonna style it to have a color of black because you know the default color. I don't want the default color, so black as well, and that is pretty much all that we need. Space. So I guess at this point we probably could just save it and look at what it looks like. So let's do that. All right, perfect. Unfortunately, we're not getting the color that the style that we, oh, my mistake. I just realized that I did not add color in here, so I guess we'll see that after we save it again. I'm not gonna do it again, but you can see where we're at, and this can hover. When I click on this, it will change that. So that's pretty much all that we want. Now outside of the v text, I'm gonna add another v card actions, and this is just for like telling the users, you know, if you're gonna continue, you have to agree to the terms and stuff like that. So basic stuff. So let's create our vcard actions and remove this. Now in here, the first thing I want to do is actually put some margin around this thing because I don't want it to be like inline here. I want it to be on the inside to some extent. So we're gonna put a margin from the left and one from the right, same amount, and then we're gonna have this to be centered, and now we can just go ahead and just start. I'm gonna put a paragraph in here, and then we're gonna say by continuing, you agree to Fedorae educations. I can't spell education. Fedorae educations. What is it? We're gonna put privacy policy in here. I'm gonna put a anchor tag, and that's not gonna go anywhere. This will be our policy, our privacy policy. And what I'm gonna actually do is just to copy this because it's pretty much the same that we're gonna use. So instead of wasting my time to type this all out again, so we're gonna, it's not gonna go anywhere. We're gonna give it a class of with a padding of 2 here, so it will not hitch on this, and then we're just gonna change, and it's the style is gonna be black as well. And now we can just change this to policy, and that's pretty much that. And then we're gonna say and we're gonna do the same thing again, same everything there, and the terms of use. This one is going to be terms of use. Okay, terms of use, and we could just close the p tag here, the paragraph tag here, and that is pretty much it. Before I even save this, I should just name this actually. We're gonna name this to be login. So that's pretty much that. Now we can save this. Alright, wonderful. So you can see that we now have an amazing login page. This will route us to our Fedorae education page. And you can see that we have the title now. When I hover over it, I had mentioned that before. We got our input fields, password field, our login button here, remember me, sign up, doesn't go anywhere. These doesn't go anywhere either. And that is that. Pretty amazing. We can look at how this flexes. So if I should change this to mobile, remember I was telling you that about the column width and stuff. So if I do this, you can see it flexes properly, so it looks pretty good. And that's the cool thing about Vuetify that I really like. Has great stuff, and you can see that it doesn't. I'm trying to scroll. There's no scroll here, which is something that I really like. I don't like to have this scroll functionality when I do stuff like this, create login forms like this. So this is pretty much it for our login form. I don't think there's anything else to add. There's a lot of things that could possibly be added later on, but for now at least, we're gonna leave it at that. Now, the last thing that I want to do is to actually push this to GitHub so that you guys can actually take advantage of this. So let me just go ahead and grab the URL here, and when this should open, can expand this. All right, so let's do well, we already initialized a branch when we created a project. So what I'm gonna do is to say git add all, and we're gonna commit, and I'm gonna put a add or added login component. All right, so I spelled the thing wrong. All right, so now I can just go ahead and do a git branch, and the branch that we want is, I'm gonna just paste it here. This is an invalid branch. Okay, that was wrong. That's not what I should add there. So what I should actually add was the remote origin. So git remote add origin, and this is origin. All right, there we go. Let's see if we can actually change the branch. Let's see if we can actually change the branch as well. I know it's been given. I think I've been messing this up lately, but see if I can get it right this time. So git branch main. Awesome. Now let's do a git push and push this up. Alright, so we may have to do this as well to set the upstream branch. Alright, there we go. So if I come back here and refresh this, now you can see our fresh Vuetify view project here, and I use npm. So that's the project setup. And I'll come here and go to the source, the component, get the login form, and just copy the code from here and use it your disposal or whatever. But this is private, so this should not be private. We can change that afterwards. So I'm gonna allow this to be publicly accessible to you guys later on. So that is pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.